Peter Grant.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, for giving me the chance to deliver my maiden speech this afternoon. Can I commend the honourable member from South Ribble for a very entertaining maiden speech, in which she also spoke with great passion and commitment about the constituency which she now represents. Can also commend the members for Tunbridge and Marling and my good friend from East Lothian from their maiden speeches earlier. Can I thank the Whips on all sides of the House for sending most of their backbenchers home, thereby significantly increasing my chances of catching the Speaker's eye this afternoon. And can I also, for possibly the first time from any maiden speaker, thank their traffic controllers at Edinburgh Airport, who this morning arranged for 2 high-altitude aircraft to fly at right angles to each other, presumably not both at the same time, thereby creating a vapour trail saltire that I understand could be seen all the way across the constituency. How they organised it and how they knew I was speaking here today, I don't know, but they managed it somehow. If I do appear a wee bit nervous, I should explain that although I'm now proud to call myself a Fifer, I was brought up very close to Clifton Hill, home of the mighty Albion Rovers. I supported the Rovers as a wee boy, and I'm not used to seeing quite this number of people in the one place before. Although, since I left Coatbridge, they have gone to strength. They are now the reigning Scottish League 2 champions and will play in Scottish League 1 next year. It's traditional to pay tribute to your predecessor. I'm delighted to be able to commend the contribution to the constituency and to Parliament made by Lindsay Roy during his almost 8 years as a member here. Lindsay was elected in November 2008 in a lengthy and often bad-tempered by-election in which I finished second, and it would have been easy for that to put divisions between us. At the time, I was leader of the council, Lindsay became the MP. We could easily have ended up on opposite sides, but thanks to Lindsay's willingness to work together, we did work together on a number of issues, as he worked with politicians across the political divide. Thanks to that willingness to work together, we prevented the threatened closure of our emergency medical out-of-hours service in Glenrothes, and I'll be delighted to carry on working on a number of the campaigns in which Lindsay made a lot of progress, but which are not yet completed. The reopening of a rail link to Leavenmouth, the largest population centre in the whole of Scotland that doesn't yet have a railway, the much needed and overdue safety improvements to the A92 trunk road, and ensuring that the energy park in Methil fulfils its potential to become not only a national but an international centre of excellence in the renewable energy sector, bringing much needed and highly skilled jobs to an area that so desperately needs them. It's my intention to follow Lindsay's practice and to refer to the constituency as Glenrothes and Central Fife, because Glenrothes, although it's the town where I live, and I love it more than any town anywhere, it only represents 50% of the population of the constituency, and the rest of them don't like being told they live in a new town. I think it was insensitive on the part of the Boundaries Commission not to take that into account. It's a constituency which is literally built on coal. Although most of the coal mines had gone before I moved to Fife over 30 years ago, once a town has become a coal mining community, I don't think it ever stops that. The community spirit, the independence of spirit, the looking out for each other is something that gets ingrained into the population, and thankfully it stays there. It's a constituency which has produced genuine working class heroes who were brought up in difficult conditions, sometimes of extreme poverty, and yet achieved absolute greatness. It was the home of the radical socialist poet Joe Corry, described by T.S. Eliot as the greatest poet Scotland has produced since Robert Burns. It was the home of Celtic and Scotland goalkeeper John Thompson, whose brilliant career was tragically cut short at just 22 by an accident on the football field, and who even in that short time has established himself as possibly the greatest footballer ever to pull on a goalkeeper's jersey. The constituency is the birthplace of Jimmy Shand, who these days it's fashionable to mock. Jimmy Shand recorded more tracks than Elvis Presley and the Beatles added together. It was the boyhood home of Andy Thompson, who emigrated as a young man and is now renowned as one of the most successful indoor and outdoor bowlers in English bowling history, 7 world titles to his name. We've also produced great Scotland internationals on the bowling green, such as Julie Sword and Lynn Steen, who have represented their nation with great distinction at Commonwealth and UK championships. The birthplace of Jack Vetriano, an artist who becomes more popular the more the artistic establishment appear to detest him. There is a rebellious element, not only to Jack Vetrano, but to most people who've been born and brought up in Fife. The constituency is home to the mighty and all-conquering East Fife Football Club. At least they were in 1932, when they became the only team to win the Scottish Cup from outside the top division. It's also home to the more recently formed East Fife Ladies Football Club, whose steady progress through the divisions is worth watching, thanks partly to the contribution of my late and very dear friend Arthur Robertson, but also to Liz Anderson, a coach who is already attracting interest not only from ladies football clubs but also in the mainstream Scottish clubs, who'd be very, very keen to attract her abilities. Watch out for that name. She will be coaching a national squad, I predict, before very long. And of course, the constituency is both the domestic home and the political home of Tricia Marwick, MSP, who will undoubtedly go down in our history as one of our greatest ever parliamentarians. Although the constituency is named after a new town, it includes sites of great antiquity. Dalginch, the ancient capital of the Kingdom of Fife. The Kingdom of Fife has existed as an administrative and governmental unit since before the days of recorded history. It's possibly the only kingdom we know of that is more ancient than the nation of the Scots itself. The constituency is also home on the coast to the Weems Caves, home of some of the most priceless works of Bronze Age art we have anywhere, possibly the oldest existing painting of a real object anywhere in Scotland. Those caves tragically are now at danger of disappearing through the ravages of the weather. There's contrasts in the local economy as well. There's success stories in some industries, but severe problems in others. The constituency, particularly the Glenrothes and Leamouth area, is still reeling from the loss of the iconic 200-year-old Tullis Russell paper mill, from the closure of Sphere and Turret, a family-owned retailer whose closure has led to a lot of job losses, not only in my own constituency, but next door in North East Fife. The closure of the Velux window factory and head office. Between them, in the last year, these closures have taken 1,000 direct jobs and a similar number of indirect jobs out of the constituency. At the same time, it's home to the Barbirnie House Hotel, which has won the Scottish Wedding Venue of the Year award so often that most other hotels want them to be disqualified from taking part to give them a chance. It is home to Cameron Brig, one of only 2 places in the world that makes single grain Scotch whisky that is good enough to drink. I'm sorry the Leader of the House isn't here just now, because he mentioned Epsom Derby. Can I remind members who may or may not partake of Gordon's, Tanqueray, Pimm's, Archers or Smirnoff at any of the quintessentially English sporting events of this season, you're actually enjoying something that is produced in the heart of the Glenrothes and Centre Fife constituency. So as well as making a huge contribution to the sporting, cultural and social life of our near neighbour, don't ever forget the contribution that we're making to the Chancellor of the Exchequer's bank account. I'm going to break with tradition and not even pretend that my constituency is the most scenically beautiful in the whole of the United Kingdom. Even on these benches here, I can't compete with my good friend from North East Fife. I can't compete with the Western Isles. I can't compete with Angus or with East Lothian. But what my constituency does have is people of genuine character, people of absolute integrity, people who will work tirelessly to give their families a good standard of living, and who will work tirelessly for the benefit not only of themselves but of others round about them. In trusting me to represent them, these people have given me the greatest privilege and the greatest responsibility I will ever carry. They rely on me to put an end to the obscenity that is benefit sanctions inflicted on the weakest and most vulnerable in our nation. They rely on me to put an end to the shame of 10,000 emergency food parcels per year in a single constituency in our nation, and not even the most deprived constituency in Scotland at that. They share my belief that for these levels of extreme poverty to exist in a Scotland that is one of the wealthiest nations on the planet is nothing short of criminal, and I am determined to change that for the better. All of us can claim with some justification that we come here with the hopes and dreams of our constituents. I've been humbled and inspired in equal measure by the knowledge that, like many of my honourable friends on these benches, the constituents who have entrusted us include a great many who for far too long have been told they had no right to dream. I'm proud to speak with the voice of thousands whose voices have never been heard, not because they've nothing worth saying, but because nobody in this place would listen. And I carry the awesome responsibility of shouldering the hopes of a people who are now waking up to the fact that the future is something to be faced with hope and not with fear. The reason that these benches usually are so packed is because one of the 4 equal partner nations in this union has once again dared to hope, has once again dared to believe in a better future. Madam Deputy Speaker, Project Fear may have won the day in 2014. I'm proud to stand here in 2015 as a representative of Project Hope, and Project Hope will prevail.
Yeah.
Mr. Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And it is a wonderful coincidence, a fortuitous concatenation of circumstances that mean that I am able to congratulate the honourable gentleman, the member for Glenrothes and Central Fife, because I stood as the Conservative candidate in Central Fife in 1997, and I know that what he says is true. It is a constituency of wonderful people. They were incredibly kind to me, and as you may have noticed, I'm quite English, and come from Somerset, and they couldn't have been more kindly to a young Conservative who they were pretty sure had no chance of winning. And so when the honourable gentleman was singing the virtues of his constituents, I know that he speaks the truth. And I also now know, which I didn't know before, that when I enjoy a glass of Pimm's during the course of the summer, which I hope to do on occasions, that it was made in Glenrothes. So it's a wonderful constituency, and it has a brilliant representative now for it. I just hope he becomes a Conservative one day, because I think the only way we'll get a Conservative in Glenrothes is if somebody crosses the floor. But we have had a cornucopia of excellent maiden speeches today. Sticking with the Scottish nationalist theme, the honourable gentleman for East Lothian made his maiden speech from the front bench. Now, I don't know who was the last opposition spokesman to do that, but I know the last minister to do that was Harold Wilson, who made his maiden speech from the dispatch box in 1945. So the honourable gentleman is in very fine company, and indeed made a very fine speech with detailed points on the European Union, which I look forward to cross-examining closely in further debates. But he also revealed the extraordinary generosity of benefits in Scotland when he told us that he is eligible for a bus pass. Clearly the age at which you get a bus pass in Scotland is much lower than it is in the United Kingdom.